Here we go. Hey everyone, this is the Amazing Race review. We're going to be reviewing episode 5 and 6 today. Joining me, as always, is Calbert. Calbert, how you doing?
Doing good. What's going on, everybody?
And like I said, we are here to discuss Amazing Race episode 5 and Amazing Race episode 6. We had a double episode because Survivor was not on. And the week before, it was a 2-hour Survivor finale, so we didn't get an Amazing Race. So they decided to give us 2 Amazing Race episodes back to back. It was pretty cool. So, anyways, let's go into the episode. Episode 5, we were leaving Vietnam. And we were going to Dubai, was the episode. I mean, we've been to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. We've been to Dubai a few times. So the teams, they got into Dubai and they had to go to the picture frame, as I call it, the big frame where you could see through old Dubai to the new Dubai. There are some teams that had some cab troubles, like Rachel and Alyssa.
Yes, they did. That would eventually, foreshadowing, but that could lead to their demise, possibly. As we go on, if something like that happens again. But I thought that was kind of interesting that they had that picture frame was huge. By the way, it was massive. And I thought it was funny, like the cab driver was like, I can see it, but I can't. I went off the wrong exit. How do you go off the wrong exit? It's a picture frame. Right. Head towards the picture frame.
Right. The actual name of that was the Dubai frame, is what it's actually called. So then basically they go in the frame where they had the glass floors. That was kind of cool, and that's where they got their clue. I think it was a pretty cool, visual for the episode. And by the way, are you surprised that we had another nighttime episode? We've had 3 of them.
That was interesting. Yeah, that was interesting because and then you had to go to so before you got to the picture frame, you got to go into fancy cars to get your clue.
Yes, we forgot about that. I forgot about that. Yes, you had to go in the middle of the desert.
You got to sit around a campfire and chill with some people, and they're like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, the clue's in the car. And there you are drinking tea, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm supposed to be here to get a clue.
Right.
Reaching into a Ferrari or ATV, a Jeep or a Mustang, or it's kind of cool. I thought that was that was unique,
Yeah, that was actually they had to go to the Al Faca. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Faca desert. They were actually in the Al Faca desert, and they had to meet. That's where they met those guys. Then they had their next clue to go to the Dubai frame. So there was kind of a lot of get clue here, get your clue there, kind of to start off the episode, which is fine. I like different ways to differentiate the different legs on the race. But so then from there, then we had the detour, which I believe was called, so there was the dinosaur park.
Yep, so that was Find. The dinosaur park was Find.
Yes.
The virtual reality one was Fall, and they called it Fall, obviously, because you were virtual reality falling from the skyscraper itself, I guess.
Yes, it was Fall or Find. Okay, that's what it was. I gotta ask you. So the dinosaur park, obviously you just had to find eggs, but you had to put on a dinosaur costume. But the fall was kind of a swerve, right? Because everybody thought, oh hey, we're gonna be jumping off a building. That's what they thought, and it was total swerve.
Right.
Right. So knowing what you know, which task would you have chosen?
I would have done Find. Even if I didn't know that there was a test after the oh, cool, I fell. Where's my clue? Oh, I have to do a quiz. Oh, I have to get, so many right. Oh, I had to pay attention to, how many satellites there were, or what floor I was on when I got off the elevator, or was the door open or closed? So I would have done fine because the dinosaur eggs were lit up. Like, okay, that's not terribly hard. All right. So yeah, I look kind of goofy running around in a dinosaur suit, but all I have to do is find some colored eggs and put them in a nest. Fairly simple, I thought, and because the fall, only 2 teams were allowed to go at a time.
Right.
So, like, that's more detail oriented, and of course, I'm more focused and I'm not faulting anybody. Like, I'm not going to fault the cousins for doing this, right? Everybody's all pumped. Cool. I'm gonna jump off of a skyscraper. This is gonna be great.
Right.
But then, oh crap, there's a quiz.
Right.
So personally, I would have done fine because it seemed like the easier of the 2 tasks to me.
I think you're right. I think having that swerve kind of, I guess it kind of made sense. Like, a lot of teams like, oh, hey, we're just going to jump off a building and that'll be it. But that was not it at all. So,
which anybody, even the Big Brother teams were like, this can't be that simple. So they're already starting to figure this out. That it's not that simple. It can't just be as simple as, ziplining from one point to the other.
You're right.
I mean, I know that's not it, but you're not just going to be able to zipline from one point to the other. You might have to zipline and then pay attention to something as you're going across.
Well, this kind of brings back kind of what the detour was in the early seasons, like the way early season of the Amazing Race. Like, I'm talking maybe Amazing Race 1 through 5, where a lot of times in the detours, it really wasn't about a certain task. It was about how did you want to take your path. Like, okay, there was okay, you could bungee jump and it would be the quicker way, or you could walk down the mountain, which would be the slower way. That's kind of always how they used to do the detours. It wasn't ever really about, this specific task or this. It was just more like, how do you want to get from point A to point B? And that's kind of probably what some of these teams were thinking. Maybe even, Colin and Christie, they're from season 5. So that's kind of when that was still kind of being implemented. But now the game is way different. I mean, it's more about, different tasks and how fast you can complete them.
Well, correct. Mm-hmm. And then, I thought that Rachel and Alyssa almost made another mistake by going. They were about to put on the dinosaur suit and both said to each other, "Well, the fall test should be easy, should be quicker." So, and that's a mistake too, right? We know once you. I mean, it's already happened this season already, but for the most part, you're going to stick with your tasks because if you go somewhere else, first off, you're dealing with time,
mm-hmm.
right? Because most of the tasks aren't necessarily, it's not like they're next to each other, right? Most of the tasks are what seems to be like across town, right? So,
yep.
And then not only that, but then you have to do the task and then you have to pay attention, right? So
you're also wasting time. You're wasting time,
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought that was going to be a mistake.
It definitely was a mistake. It definitely could have costed them the race. I think, this leg too, it seemed like if you made a decision you weren't really excited about or you wanted to switch detours, I think this was the leg that you didn't want to do that because I don't think many teams really got hung up with a lot. And I think Rachel and Alyssa, especially, they should have just did the dinosaur one. They should at least give it a shot because,
especially with half your costume on.
No kidding.
All you have to do is put the head part on at that point.
Right.
You're there. You're there. You have gotten over the I'm air quoting here, the virtual speed bump of your taxi driver screwing up by not getting you to the airframe in time.
Right.
That you've gotten past that, and then you go, well, the fall looks easier, or the fall is quicker.
Right.
So let's go do that.
Right, and that's what they were thinking, and it was a total swerve. It was a total swerve.
That was crazy to me. I thought I was going. Bye. You're going home.
and if you looked at Find in the dinosaur park, like how hard would it have been to just find different eggs? It's not like they're gonna put them in the exhibits. They don't want people going into their, you know what I mean. They're just gonna put them along the walkway. So I figured it was gonna be a lot easier than it seemed.
And the eggs were lit up, so it wasn't like, oh, like crap, I can't find it because I can't see it. Like every egg that was found for the most part was found in the actual color of whatever part of the park they were in. So like if they were in the blue part, they found the blue egg, going into that particular portion, or the pink one, the pink one's by this rock looking thing, but it's lit up so I can still see it. I mean, so that's why, and it was only, I believe 6 eggs or so. So, it wasn't like it was a ton of them.
Yes.
Right? So, like, I think maybe the hardest thing would have been to, like, okay, find where the nest is in here. Because that's where it had to go, right? So, like, that would have been the one difficult part where, like, okay, where is that? I can find the egg part is the easy part. It's do I want to carry 2 to 3 eggs with me, or do I want to carry 1? So, that's why I would have done fine, because it would have just been easier. Okay, if it's me and you doing it, okay, I'll go find the white one, you go find the blue one, and then we'll meet back here.
Yep.
Find the next one. And we're probably done. We're probably realistically done in 20 to 25 minutes compared to fall, which is okay. So not only have to pay attention to what level I'm on the elevator, but then is the door open or is it closed? How many satellites are there? And there were questions afterward, right?
Yeah, so, you got tested. I think 5 questions, maybe.
Yeah.
5 questions. The 5 questions were: at what height are you in the Burj Khalifa? The answer was 828 meters. 2,717 feet. Second question was, what color was the lever you turned? It was red. Third question was, what else was inside the glass you broke? It was a fire hose. Fourth question was, did the observation deck door open in or out? It opened out. And the last one was, which seemed to be stumping everybody, was how many antennae were on the signal interceptor? And there were 4. So, right. The 2 places that they were at were the Amway Tower and the Soho Garden. That had the dinosaur. It was called the Dubai Garden Glow. So that was where they both had to go. I think. So looking at these 2 tasks, I think Team Fun obviously nailed it.
Which one would you have done if it were you?
I would have done. I think I would. I'm not. Okay, so let's just say I think it's going to be falling off the building. Okay. I've watched The Amazing Race in the early seasons. Obviously, if you did the more thrilling detour, you would definitely go faster than walking down the mountain or whatever. The other way to do it. But having known that the new way of playing the game is totally different, I think I would have done fine, because I think I would have found the dinosaur park more interesting, and I think it would have been okay, as long as I can see things, I can get to them faster.
Right.
And I can find these eggs faster. So I think I would have done fine. It would have been good, though. I'm glad, if you did find, I think you were happy that you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had some interest. Okay. So looking at these 2 tasks, obviously Team Fun, they nailed it. They did absolutely good, really good on this.
With their roar after finding every egg.
Oh, of course. Right.
And then they would go roar let's go find that one. Yeah.
Right, because they had, they had to do something for their gimmick.
Right.
And I think the team that had the most difficulty, I mean, obviously besides Rachel and Alyssa because they switched detours, but I think the Afghanimals had a problem with fall.
Yes. They had to do the quiz multiple times,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, there was at one point where they were going on their fourth attempt, and like he was like they were answering the signal question, and he said, I don't remember which one said which. He said one, which wasn't anywhere close to being right. I mean, you and I looked at it and went, even if we were looking down at our phone or something else, if we were doing it the first time, okay, 3, right? That's probably a good guess, and then find out if it's not right or wrong, and then second time, okay, it's got to be 4. There's no way it's less than 5, so it sure as hell wasn't 1.
Right. Right.
They did. They struggled with that. They really did. And that's the thing too. Like they were the first team that they were pumped. Sweet. I'm gonna zip line from this tower.
Mm-hmm.
This would be great.
Yep.
But that's what it was. So
right.
I mean that was interesting. I thought they got a little cocky. They were very, very cocky in the cab in particular.
Yes. They're just their team. Like when I'm looking at my power rankings for the end of the night, I'm just kind of thinking, I don't know where to put them because it's like their cockiness is starting to hurt them a lot now.
Absolutely.
Where in the beginning it was helping them, but now it's hurting. So, yeah, I don't know. So, yeah. So then the final part, we had the legs roadblock, which they had to go to the silent rave, and they had to find a party goer dancing to the same music as the DJ, using only their sight to receive their next clue. So,
which it sounded like to me it was the Amazing Race theme song.
It was like a techno version of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that looked hard.
Yes.
Like I know. Chris was mad at Brett.
Yes.
But it's a silent rave. Like you have no idea what that person's listening to.
Right.
Hence the word silent. So like you're just going off of an instinct to try, like everybody else was. Like okay, if I dance to this, let's see if the person that I'm dancing next to dances in a similar way.
Right.
I mean that was challenging. I'm not faulting anybody for struggling because no one in there got it on the first try.
No,
it took a try or two.
Yeah, I think. Well, at least with the Amazing Race editing team, I think the teams that got there later actually got it somehow on the first. I think one team got it on the first try, but I think the thing with this, where I didn't care for this roadblock, was because a lot of luck was involved. You could have just picked out a random person, and he would have been, it would have been correct. So.
Yep.
I think this was kind of luck, but at the same time, what about Colin's dance skills? I think we got to talk about that. He was really getting into it.
He was dancing on table. Yeah,
yes.
Dancing on couches. Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, I thought that was interesting too because I'm like, okay, silent rave. How is this going to work? Because you think of rave, it's loud music and everybody's going to be dancing. Silent. Okay, everybody's got headphones on. But it's got little color marks connected to the headphones. So like I'm just gonna start dancing, just kind of like you did, badly, right? But and then I probably would have done like a section. Okay, so I picked that. I'm gonna start with the right side, right? So I'm gonna pick one person. Okay, and then my guess is, by like the third time, I have to have it because that seemed to be the trend. But yeah, I mean, it was bad dancing, really bad.
Yeah, I don't think he gets paid to dance. That's for sure.
No.
And I also, another funny part in this was, I think it was Brett with Chris and Brett, where Chris is like, "Gosh darn it, he's going up to any guy who he thinks is attractive." you know, yeah. Chris was getting upset about it. He was like, come on, you know. Yeah, jeez.
What would you? I would have done the same thing. I would have been like, I don't care, whatever.
Right.
At this point, I'm just because you're right. You're exactly right. It was at some point, luck has to take over.
Yeah.
So like that's what I'm saying. If I'm picking one particular section, somebody in there probably by the fourth time has the song I'm listening to.
Yes.
Just how it was edited. That's how it looked to me. Like, okay, that person didn't, but at least the person got to go by the DJ and whatnot. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I that was kind of interesting. I agree with you though. I mean, there was the teams that should have played. Even if they missed once, they got it like the very next time. Which
right.
I don't know. That was something that I would kind of like to know. In like the behind the scenes for the end of the season.
Yeah.
Like how do you know? Right? You don't know. I mean, that's the thing. So like, what made somebody determine picking somebody as opposed to somebody else? So like, yeah, you tried to match the dance moves, but not everybody dances the same way, right? So, that was just interesting. I mean, not terribly hard, not terribly challenging, frustrating for sure, especially if you didn't get it on the first try. But I thought that was unique. That was a unique thing. So
yeah. So then after that, they had to go to Amway Tower 4. Teams had to make their way to the top of the building and ride the world's longest urban zip line to the pit stop at the Dubai Marina. The order teams arrived at the top of the tower would be the order they would check in at the pit stop. So basically, when you got to that point, you were basically that's the order that you would have came in on the mat. And I mean, I kind of like that, but I kind of don't. I guess it was just a cool way to see Dubai, I guess, at nighttime.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I mean, I agree with you. I thought that I mean, maybe it was because they were doing both of them, but the zip line on the right seemed like it took longer to set up than the zip line on the left. I mean, I don't know logistics or anything like that, but it seemed to me that you wanted to be on the left hand side of that because you might have gotten to the thing. You might have preferred sooner, right? Because everybody. That's the thing too. Like, I don't know how they set this up, but it was interesting. Like, it was just like, it's one team at a time, right? So like, there's a team already there, and there's a team that's going over them. So they to them or whatever. Like, I mean, I think they could have done a better job of maybe having maybe an additional team standing there waiting, something. That way, because it seemed like it took a long time for them to even get to finish the zip line,
Right. So I guess the order of the finishes was Beck and Floyd. They won their second leg of the race. They took first place.
More money.
Yeah, more money. $5,000 they got.
Yeah. Right.
Chris and Brett, surprisingly, from third to second. That's pretty solid. They seem to really been turning their team around. Third place, we had Colin and Christy, the ever so steady Colin and Christy at third. Fourth, we had your team, Tyler and Corey. To that point, was their second best finish in fourth place. And in fifth place, we had Nicole and Victor, who kind of slid a little bit there in the Dubai episode. Sixth place, we had Janelle and Brittany. Seventh place, we had the Afghanimals. And eighth place, saved by the non-elimination, Rachel and Alyssa. And they were very emotional, and I think Alyssa was trying to calm Rachel down.
Yeah, because, I mean, we only saw the edited part, but she said at least twice, it's going to be okay. Like, seriously, stop.
Right.
Because like, it seemed like she was having like like a biographical response to the show. Like, oh man, this show is so beautiful and it's so awesome and it's so unique and it's so wonderful. Right. I mean, you don't know anything yet. I mean, you know, there's no need to. And you're right, because once they got to the match, she was very, very emotional. Like, oh my god, you know, we're not eliminated. Like, what probably was for us, what probably was like 10 minutes, might have been like a half-hour cab ride for her. Going,
oh yeah,
just like almost verbatim repeating what she just said, not 5 minutes ago.
Right.
To a T. Like, oh my god, stop.
Yeah, and I think and that's got to be horrible. Like, you know, you're in last place, and you're just like in this cab ride, just thinking, what the heck, you know?
Right.
We're gonna be last, obviously. You know, they're just pissed off, obviously.
Right.
You know, so I guess were you okay with a non-elimination so quickly? Because we're only gonna get one more.
No, and I think that's been a kind of an interesting thing for this season. There have been we've had two now already, and that's with it being with the episodes being so close to each other. That's something very odd to me. That it doesn't usually. It's not the non-eliminations aren't usually this close together.
Right.
You know, so I would have been fine if they would have sent them home, or like we talked about last week at the end of the show. We talked about how I thought that there would be a double elimination. So I got that wrong.
Well, you and me both did.
Yeah,
we asked that question last week, and we both said we thought it was going to be two eliminations.
Yeah, because that would have made sense, and that would have been. I mean, because we've already got to the part where we've kind of sort of started to separate the men from the boys, right? So you know, now would be a time to go. Okay, like you've kind of figured out the concept of the game. If you're a Big Brother or Survivor team, you've kind of figured it out now. You know, sorry your trip ends in Dubai, but hey, you got to go to Dubai. I mean, so
pretty cool looking city. I think Dubai has sold me. I mean, just from watching The Amazing Race, been there so many times, I think it's sold me on there's some pretty cool locations in Dubai.
Sure. Yeah, they've had movies there too. Was it Fast 6? I believe they shot a couple scenes there.
You're way ahead of me. I think I lost track after Tokyo Drift.
Yeah,
I still have to probably binge watch all the rest of the Fast and the Furious movies, but yeah, no, you're right. They have filmed a lot of movies in Dubai. I mean, it's obviously you got the desert. You know, you can film any type of movie, really.
Right. But yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that it was a non-elimination for this leg. I mean, that because you know. I mean, so the thought is, right, we don't know when the next one is, obviously, but, like, if we're using non-eliminations at this point, right, or at least I would think as a veteran Amazing Race watcher, that you're going to use it on a team that you actually think has a very good chance of winning or at least finishing second or third. Mm-hmm. And I just don't get that with Rachel and Alyssa. That to me, I know we haven't gotten our power ratings yet, but that to me, they just don't feel like a winning team to me. Even with the experience that she has, it just doesn't. I mean, she if she crumbled over Dubai, what happens? You know, if they get back to the States and they have another cab driver that for some reason can't get them from point A to point B, you know, what are you going to do then?
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't like that. That's just me. That's my one major gripe so far this season. I know we're only 6 episodes in, but that's my one gripe. But it's like, I guess we're giving the non-elimination legs away like candy.
Well, not only that,
everybody gets paid.
there's a lot of night legs, which is interesting. I don't have a problem with the night legs either. I mean, that's fine. If you want to throw nighttime legs in, that's fine with me. But
sure.
Yep.
Sure.
All right, so that was episode 5. I think as an overall, I don't know if episode 5 was. It was cool, but it wasn't. I'm just gonna give it a flat 7 out of 10, like just passing. You know.
I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay.
But you and I are somewhere in that way, and I think that part of that for me is the rave. Part of that for me is the virtual reality challenge, which, I mean, I know that this was a night challenge,
right?
But that virtual reality could have taken like 4 or 5 hours, and we would have had no idea, right? But
right.
That's just how, like, to me, like, if you missed, you're costing yourself at least an hour. So I mean, I thought it was okay. Like, you know, it's there. You know,
yeah.
It's cool. Dubai itself was cool. I mean, they did a good job of showing off the city. I had no problem with that. You know,
I think it's just like too much stuff that you could probably do anywhere else.
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
like a dinosaur park. I mean, okay, every state has its own. I mean, I'm not just saying zoos, but you know, a lot of zoos, they'll have their own dinosaur exhibit. You know, nothing. And then the virtual reality stuff, it's nothing you can't really do anywhere else. I mean, obviously the zip line, I think they made up for it with the frame and the zip line, but those weren't tasks or roadblocks.
Right.
You know, the silent rave was just, it was okay. It's unique.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting how they have that, but. You know, I don't know. That's just kind of what I thought of it. It's, yeah. I mean, I'm probably a little generous on a 7 out of 10, but yeah. I mean, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I honestly, it would. Right. To say it's the worst episode so far is a little extreme, but that's where I kind of would have it. It's like it was at best okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but to your point, I mean, it wasn't terribly challenging. You know, that's why I was like, you know, the argument could be made it was the worst episode so far.
Yes.
You know,
and that's not a knock on the season.
It's not on the show. It's just
you know, it is what it is. There's going to be a bad episode here and there.
Right.
All right, so let's go to episode 6. They go to Uganda. Now, I did not know this, but this is another second history-making leg, because this is the first time the Amazing Race has ever been to Uganda.
Yes.
So I did not know that. So, you know, right off the bat, we get Tyler and Corey kind of saying they're, you know, not a huge fan of the civil or the human rights that are in Uganda. So, maybe this was Amazing Race editing, kind of putting that in there. They probably didn't have to put it in there, but they put it in there because of what we know that happened at the end of the leg with Tyler and Corey taking first. But maybe it was kind of a way to play on, you know, them. Hey, you know, they overcame the country maybe they didn't want to go to, you know.
Which was interesting because there was some foreshadowing even in the cat ride.
Yes.
They were like, and we would really like a first place finish, which I was like, and I thought that was interesting too. Like, going there was interesting, obviously, A, but B, like, this is just a worldwide, universal thing. If you are polite to people anywhere, they will be polite back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, say hello, or if you say good morning.
Right.
Everybody, let me phrase, not everybody, majority of humans will say, you know, hello, good morning, or whatever. You know, they're gonna smile at you. You know, even if they're in a pile of dirt.
Right.
You know, in a you know, 10,000 people, they're gonna smile at you. I mean, I thought that was just interesting. I mean, I thought it was a little overblown.
Yes.
Right. Because it's not like they weren't going to kiss while they're in the market.
Yeah, right. They're not going to do something crazy to offend the local, you know, people. Mm-hmm.
Right. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Not to say, by the way, that obviously that's the team I picked, so I wanted them to do well. But I was like, I'm not gonna fault Corey for getting emotional even at the airport. I mean, that's kind of a big thing. I mean, you know, countries different.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't deserve to be apprehensive. I just thought it was a little overblown.
Well, right. It's not like the Amazing Race producers or the Bertram Van Munster's gonna. He's gonna pick like Syria or Iraq or something, or North Korea. North Korea. I mean, you're not going to those countries. I mean, yes, some of the countries they do go to have some dangerous parts to them. There's no question. I mean,
look at how many times I've gone to India. Right?
Yes.
And we've seen this almost every time they go to India.
Mm-hmm.
They're in downtown India. It's nothing but cows and horns at night at some market or some store. And it's usually still freaking hot, even if the sun's down.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, even in the I think it was season 6, there was a team that got held up for ransom.
Yeah.
They were in Morocco. Yeah, I mean, stuff has happened, and these are even countries where Amazing Race deems that they're safe. But I mean, stuff does happen. It does happen. It's not crazy stuff. But so then we went to the Uganda National Mosque, and from there they had to count how many steps there were. We've seen tasks like this, count how many steps or how many fences, poles are in there. We've had a lot of Tyler and Corey actually they had they looked this up online actually, and they kind of just took what they found online as that it was going to be what they had to do, but they kind of switched it up. Amazing Race switched it up. So the correct number was 272. Rachel and Alyssa had some issues with this, obviously. Chris and Brett had some issues.
Which, I mean, I thought it was interesting, too. Like, even, so it's practically just you. It's you and your partner, and you're just walking up there counting steps. So, like, for the teams that said, count silently in your head, if it's me, why? That's one extra step, and eventually, as we know, for, I believe it was Brittany, who was like, it's either 271 or 272. Well, if I'm counting silently, if I would have been counting out loud, we would know it was 272.
Right.
So, like, that's just a personal pet peeve for me when somebody's like, if you're counting something and they're like, count silently in your head. No, because we might need to know the number later.
Right.
Because you might forget. That's just a pet peeve of mine. And it was interesting. Of course, if you missed, which some teams did,
yep,
you had to go all the way back down.
Yep,
and
start over. Yeah,
right.
It definitely shifted the rankings a little bit, or the placing, I should say.
Yes.
From that point on, then we went to the Soweto restaurant, which was in the Owino market. They had to make a Rolex. Now this is where the episode kind of gets pretty interesting, because we saw a little tension from was it Nick, Victor and Nicole, where Victor got pissed off at, was it Leo?
Yeah. Because Victor thought he got burnt.
Yes.
Yeah.
He got burned. So there was a little tension there. A Rolex sandwich. This is the part where reading your clue would have told you that, no, you're not trying to get a Rolex watch. You're trying to make a Rolex sandwich.
Right.
Right. So, Janelle and Brittany, this is where this kind of just spun in a tailspin. And, I've been saying, like, I don't think Janelle and Brittany were that great of a team. They were fine. They didn't do anything really bad, but they never did anything really good either. And all it took was one tailspin to knock them out. And I think this is what happened. And this is kind of one of those things where this is where it starts, and this is where you can really get yourself in a bind. But I guess, what did you think of this roadblock where basically one team member had to find a vendor who would give them a shopping list. They then had to purchase the ingredients from the list and then use their ingredients to properly prepare a Rolex to receive their next clue.
Which is interesting because Victor even said when he got it, he was like, "Oh, it's not Rolex, it's Rolex." Oh, okay, way over his head. Way over his head.
Right.
Which I don't know exactly how the clue was written, but I know the difference between Rolex and not Rolex, not the watch, right? So I mean, that was just a simple. That's just counting letters. To your point, reading the clue. I mean, so I thought it was interesting because it had vegetables and it had egg. So it was kind of like a burrito with eggs and vegetables in it. So, and then you had to kind of it seemed like to me you had to basically pan fry it. So that was interesting. It didn't look like it was too terribly hard to find any of the ingredients. But yeah, Brittany was like, "Oh, it's Rolex, so I have to find a watch." And I mean, she's still probably looking for it, even now.
Probably. I mean, they lost a lot of time with this,
which is frustrating. Yeah, which is frustrating. I mean, even it was an interesting challenge because it didn't look like it was too terribly hard to make, but it would have been maybe just time consuming just to make sure that the bread was brown enough or cooked enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was interesting that with the amount of people that were there, that somebody didn't let's say you're reaching for to cut the tomato, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just randomly walking by and, oh look, cool, free sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Yank.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, they didn't really. None of the locals really helped her out too much. I mean, obviously there was probably a language barrier to some extent. But so, what did you think of the speed bump for Rachel and Alyssa, where they had to hand wash clothes and then hang them to dry in order to continue racing?
How hard? I mean, they made it look very, very simple.
Yeah.
Because Phil talked about that too. He was like, "Good luck trying to find a clothes hanger to hang all these clothes." Well, it didn't look like it was too terribly hard for them because there was a clothes hanger right there. Now, I'm sure that was. I don't know this to be accurate, right? But I'm going to venture a guess and say the producers probably went, "You know what? Instead of having them go, let's say midway through the market to drop their clothes off, let's just put the hanger right there."
Right. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the speed bumps are very inconsistent to begin with. We've seen some that are more challenging than others, but they clearly didn't really want to give them that big of a speed bump. And obviously the speed bump didn't, I think teams focus a little more when they have to do the speed bump versus teams that don't. I mean, obviously, when you had Janelle and Brittany getting lost in the roadblock, but it gave an opportunity for Rachel and Alyssa to get back in the game. Obviously, despite having to do the speed bumps.
And I mean, how about that? You want to talk about old school? It doesn't get any old school than a tub and soap and water. I mean, and like an actual washboard too. I mean, that's as old school as it gets. It doesn't get any more than that. I mean, I thought that was really, really interesting, and I thought it was also interesting that was quite a bit of clothes there too. I mean, I didn't exactly count how many there were, but it was a decent amount. So it wasn't necessarily like trying to make the snowballs for Chris and Brett. So it was interesting.
Yeah,
and that's the thing too. And that going in, right? That if you're that particular team, we have to crush this. The only way we're going to get back in this thing is if we crush this thing and we crush it quickly, no matter what it is. So, and they did.
And they did. Exactly.
As Brittany was like to me at some points like Brittany was actually going to like walk out of the market to try and find the Rolex. But yeah, and then she finally, you know, once you figured it out, you know, you if you're Brittany, you feel dumb, right? Like everybody else would. But yeah, I mean, like that's where, you know, reading your clue,
will help you out.
Picking the right taxi driver. You know, it's the real minuscule things, especially when we get to this part of the show. It's the letter and the details that can make all the difference in the world.
Yep, exactly. So after that point, we had the detour, which was a choice between Salty Roll and Move the Pole. In Salty Roll, teams had to bring a wheelbarrow full of the largest freshwater fish in Africa, the Nile perch, to a workstation. They then had to properly salt and roll the fish skin and had to wash, gut, and salt the meat to receive their next clue. In Move the Pole, teams had to load firewood from a canoe onto a bicycle and deliver the wood to a market. There, teams had to stack the wood like a finished example. Once teams delivered and stacked enough wood to reach a specified height, they would receive their next clue. So, okay, what detour are you choosing?
I would have done Move the Pole.
Okay.
And I would have done Move the Pole just like the majority of the teams did, because it's wood and it's pretty much already set up for me. So basically, all I have to do is it becomes a stacking game, right? So, and all I have to do then is just, you know, ask the very, very nice lady that actually has the height to pull to test to make sure that it's actually the right height. Now, having said that, I mean, not great because it's on a bike and I'm dodging people and potholes and puddles, plus trying to actually hold on to the wood itself, you know, so that part was challenging. But once I would have gotten there, I've been like, okay, let's just start stacking, because it doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason for why, you know, I'm not going to put like a small piece of wood here and a big piece of wood there. You know, there's no rhyme or reason. It's all gonna work out in the end. You know, there's no. That's where also, by the way, like there wasn't any wind. Like I would have wondered if there were wind, if there was wind, because I had to do it in rain, because it rained for portions of that episode. You know, would that have mattered? You know, could they have gotten a big gust of wind to possibly knock it over? Didn't look like it. So I mean, to me, that was the easier task. You know, and I'm sure at this point, anybody that has gutted the fish is tired of gutting fish, because they've been gutting fish since at least Vietnam.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Move the Pole, you're not dealing with fish guts either. You're just kind of dealing with, you know, okay, I just got to, you know, lift this and move it here and stack it here. I don't think it was too challenging. I mean, I have gutted fish before. It's not the most pleasant experience, but, I mean, is it doable? I mean, obviously you had to do a little bit more than that. Yes.
Sure.
And I think the teams that did do it, there was only 2 of them. It was the bottom 2, but they actually did it pretty quickly, surprisingly. So, you know, but yeah, Move the Pole definitely seemed to. I mean, I think both detours didn't really give that many teams challenges. I mean, you know, the editing made it seem like Colin and Christy had a problem with it, but clearly they didn't, because they got out of there pretty quickly. So, yeah, nothing too. I think personally I probably would have done Move the Pole as well. I think I would have rather relied on myself to do just, you know, transfer some wood and make stack some wood yay high. You know, I think I could have done that. So, so let's go to our head-to-head. We finally get a head-to-head here. They were playing let's see here. Looks like this game is called at Jahazi Pier. Teams encountered a head-to-head. One member from each competing team had to solve a puzzle similar to the Towel of Hanoi that consisted of 4 stacks of Ngoma drums. Team members had to move one drum at a time until each stack consisted of drums of the same color and grab an oxtail in order to win the head-to-head and check in at the nearby pit stop. The team that lost the head-to-head had to wait for the next team, and the team that lost the final head-to-head was eliminated from the race.
Right.
So, I think for this head-to-head, I think the game was interesting, but at the same time, it seemed like once you grasped the first game, you won the second game because you had the leg up on the next team. So I don't know if it worked the way the producers wanted it to.
It looked like it, to me, it looked like it was, I mean, to your point, it looked like it was actually fairly simple. I mean, maybe that's how it looked like it was edited, but I mean, like, it okay, I'm going to go to the furthest one, which, depending on how they set it up, it could be the yellow one or the red one. I mean, it didn't look too terribly challenging to me. That doesn't mean that, it's not tiring or, I'm not getting exercise or anything, because for those that didn't see it, the two teams that we picked went up against each other. So, in the head-to-head. So, I thought, it was unique. I thought it was interesting, like, the drum players would stop, and then, you grab the oxtail, and that signifies that you've won, but, it was interesting. I don't know if it was necessarily challenging. I mean, to your point, right? Once you did it one time, you're like, oh crap. It was just like a matter of seconds sometimes. Oh crap. This person started and did the green one. Crap, I did the red one instead. That was closer. I should have went further and then worked my way back in. But I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. So the head-to-heads, it was an interesting concept. I mean, I didn't mind the puzzle aspect of it. I think it was kind of cool. I think they all kind of put them in different orders, so it made the game a little more interesting. But it was cool. I mean, it represented what a Uganda game. So, and then you got to see the different type of drums that they use. So, so rounding up episode 6, we had Tyler and Corey. They got first. It was their first place finish of the season, so that's good for your team. They got their momentum kind of going now. In second place was my team, Colin and Christy. They kind of seemed to be going, steady, 1 through 4. Second place finish. They moved up 1 from last episode. Third place was Nicole and Victor. They did pretty good there. In fourth place was Chris and Brett. Keeping it pretty consistent so far for 3 legs. Becca and Floyd go from 1st to 5th, so not the greatest, but still not terrible. 6th place was Leo and Jamal. They moved up 1 place from last episode. 7th place was Rachel and Alyssa, who defeated Janelle and Brittany to round out the episode, which Janelle and Brittany were eliminated. And I don't know. With Janelle and Brittany, I mean, they never got higher than 5th place. Maybe they just didn't get their footing, but for whatever it is, they just, they couldn't do it. I think we all know the tailspin of this episode just kind of killed them, and they were never really able to recover from that. But they still had a chance, though. They still had a chance to win that head-to-head and keep racing.
And it was a fairly close race too. I mean, it wasn't like Rachel and Alyssa ran away with it. It came down to a few seconds.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was close. It was one of the closer ones. I'll definitely say that. I think Janelle and Brittany. I mean, they did okay. They did okay. I just never really saw them. I don't know. I just didn't really see much of them to really get a feel, but I just didn't see they did enough to really get higher in at least my power rankings. So, all right, Uganda episode. What are you rating the Uganda episode?
I'm gonna give it a 7, just because of the interesting. The challenges weren't difficult. I agree with you. I don't think that. But it was interesting to check out the mosque and see to check out the view after they counted the steps. Right, everybody got a chance to look out, even though it was kind of a crappy day for them to be doing it because it was raining.
Right.
But it was kind of cool. I mean, so better than the Dubai episode, but I mean that's not saying much, right? So it was interesting, just for them to go to another different place. That too.
Yeah, it was the first time ever. I automatically going to give that a little higher than Dubai episode. I'm going to give it we'll go 7.8. I thought they did enough interesting stuff to really get mixed up. Obviously, got Janelle and Brittany confused, and the head-to-head was fun. I thought the detour was okay. I didn't really, it was just okay. Not a huge fan of it, but there was a lot going on in this episode. You had a speed bump, roadblock, detour, so there's a lot going on. I think it was pretty fun. 7.8. And the first time we've been to Uganda, so I think that in itself made it cool. Obviously, Tyler and Corey had an interesting, redemption story. So, they get first for their first time. So, all right, let's go to our power rankings this week. Why don't you start it off with give me your 7th place, and I'll do 7th and 6th.
So in 7th, I have Rachel and Alyssa, just because of just how they finished. Now, we know that it's a week-to-week thing, so something can change, but they, as we've discussed, have gotten by the skin of their teeth in both episodes. So I have Rachel and Alyssa at 7th. It would not shock me if they got eliminated next week, and there seems to be a little bit of drama between Rachel and Alyssa and Victor.
Yes.
Victor going in next.
There does seem to be some drama. It's funny, the two big brother teams kind of going at it, but so 7th place for me, I'm also going to go Rachel and Alyssa. I think they're just not they're not doing so hot anymore. They've had way too many bad finishes. I was high on them just because of Rachel. Obviously, she's got some really good race experience to her, but yeah, they're just not clicking for whatever reason. I'm going to put them at my 7th. I just think that they're kind of on the downward trend right now. 6th place for me, I'm gonna go Chris and Brett. I still don't buy them as a good team. I think they've obviously hit their stride in a sense, but I just don't think that I think they're due for bad legs coming up. And I don't know why I think that. They've done pretty solid lately, but they're going to be my 6th place team. Who do you got for 6th place and 5th place?
6th place, I have Leo and Jamal. Their cockiness is costing them. And I don't know. I would have thought that they would have had a brutal awakening going back to the episode before where they had to do the karaoke. I would have thought that would have woken them up. It didn't. I would have thought the virtual reality episode would have woken them up. It really didn't. Their cockiness is really, really costing them. So I have them at 6. I have Chris and Brett at 5. I agree with you. I think that Chris and Brett are due for a little bit of reality to hit them as well. But they're surviving, but not done. So I have Chris and Brett at 5.
Yeah, they kind of got that post last place momentum kind of going. Once they had that non-elimination, I think they've been doing really well. But there's just something about them. But anyways, for my 5th place team, I'm gonna go Leo and Jamal. Pretty high on them after the first 2 weeks. I was still trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But like you said, they just keep getting themselves in trouble, and they're hanging out at the end of the pack, and they're just not seeming like they can climb their way out of that. So I'm also going to go Leo and Jamal at 5th. My 4th place team, I mean, this is where it kind of gets really interesting, because there's a lot of different ways you can kind of go here. But I'm gonna go actually. Oh boy, I am gonna go Nicole and Victor. I hate to take them down so much after I kind of put them in the top 3, but they're just they didn't have a great 2 weeks. Like they were good, like fifth place, third place. You're not gonna really complain, but fourth. I gotta move them to fourth here, just because I think there's some other. I think Tyler and Corey are kind of their momentum's trending upward. So I'm gonna put Nicole and Victor at fourth. Who is your fourth and third?
So I have so far all we've done is just flip flop. I have Team Fun at 4. They're doing okay. They're doing all right. They are consistent. Yes, they didn't finish as well as they probably wanted to in the last leg, but they're doing okay. And in third, I have Nicole and Victor. It worries me a little bit just because they haven't had, like you said, they had 2 bad legs, but they're consistent, right? There's never like any doubt where you go, oh crap, you made a huge mistake that's going to cost you. They haven't done that yet, So until they get to that part, that's where I have them. So I have Nicole and Victor at 3.
All right. My third place team, I am going to go, let's see here. I think third place, I'm going to go, we'll go Tyler and Corey for third. I think they are definitely trending up. I moved them up from last week. They did get that first place victory, so I'm going to put them at third. They got the first place victory. They were fourth place in episode 5, first place in episode 6. So yeah, I'll go Tyler and Corey. My second place team, I am going to go Becca and Floyd, Team Fun. Yeah, they took 5th, but they've also got 2 first place victories, so that can't be underestimated. I'm not a huge fan of them as far as they're kind of very up and down. They're not as consistent as you'd like them to be. But I got them at second place. This could be the highest I could give them all year. So I got Team Fun at second. Who's your second and first place team?
So in second place, I have Colin and Christy. They're as consistent as can be. We talked about last week about just driving the ship. Make sure it doesn't hit any rocks. And that's pretty much what they're doing. They're driving the ship. They haven't hit any rocks yet. So they are very consistent. Obviously, that means for one, I have my team. I agree with you. They're trending up. Them finishing first, I think, will give them a lot of confidence going into next week and hopefully in the future. But I think Colin and Christy and Tyler and Corey, to me, it looks like they have separated themselves. Those 2 teams have separated themselves from everybody else. It's Tyler and Corey. It's in any order, right? It's Tyler and Corey or it's Colin and Christy, and then it's everybody else. It's not. They haven't separated themselves as to like be a wide margin, but it's enough to go. Okay, these 2 teams are really, really good. I could see them both finishing 1-2. I think that's what they've done so far. So yeah, I have Colin and Christy at 2, and then Tyler and Corey at 1. So should be fun. Let's see what happens. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Obviously, that leaves my number 1 team as obviously Colin and Christy. I can't put them anywhere else. I know I picked them. I don't want to be biased towards them, but they're making a case to why, how could I not be biased towards them? They're just, second, fourth, third, first, third, second. The only thing you can really complain about is they only got 1 first place victory, but you really can't even really say anything against that because they got so many second place finishes and 2 third place finishes. I mean, their worst leg was a 4th place. So I got them at 1. They're like you said, they just drive a ship and make sure it doesn't crash. Just make sure you stay the course. They're just an even keel team. Even now with Colin, he has a different outlook, which is crazy. If you watch his season 5, it's like, wow. So I got them at first. Chris, why don't you read episode 7 preview?
So episode 7, we are headed to the Swiss Alps. So teams travel to Switzerland, where they free fall over 400 feet into the, I'm going to butcher this, Glacier Gorge. So that's where we're headed. We're headed to Switzerland. So we go from Uganda to Switzerland next week.
Wow, we go from one Middle East country. Well, we go from Asia to one Middle East country to one African country. Now we're already going to Europe. That's going to be interesting. So that probably means we're going to end with South America then.
That would be my guess. Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be my guess.
That's interesting.
I expect somebody's getting eliminated. The non-elimination thing isn't going to happen this week. Somebody's getting eliminated.
I agree. I think someone's getting eliminated as well. I think it's gonna be interesting. I think. So Phil was on an interview, and he said this next episode, I guess, is going to be one of his. He says one of his favorites. So if that gives you any more indication on how good this episode could be, so I'm looking forward to it.
Should be fun.
Yep.
Should be really interesting. It looks like. Well, obviously, I just read the preview, but so we don't know when the drama starts with Victor, and Alyssa, but being that you're on a mountain to start off, which makes sense. I mean, anybody says Switzerland, the first thing anybody thinks of is mountains. So it's going to be interesting to see what they have to do on the mountain, so
yeah, it's gonna be pretty fun. I can't wait. We don't know what detour or what roadblock they're gonna have. So just one programming note. So it looks like we're gonna have one episode of Amazing Race. It's going to be at the new time of 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. But also want to note that it looks like the finale. The last 2 episodes are going to be back to back, so we're going to get 2 episodes for the finale. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So I believe 7, 8, 9, 10. So next 4 weeks, it's going to be 1 episode, and then the finale is going to be 2 episodes. So that's what it's looking like. So all right. So anyways, that'll do it for our Amazing Race episode 5. And episode 6 recap for season 31. Chris, any final thoughts?
No, this should be fun. I think they said teams were saying last week that if you've gotten to this part, you're pretty much a good team, and we're there. I mean, if you're at this point, you're a pretty good team. So I mean, this is where we talk about this all every week, where just because you're in first this week does not mean that's how you're going to finish. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next weekend as we go on. This is where I think it starts to get really, really fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really competitive season, a lot of really good teams. So I think it's going to be an excellent final 5 weeks. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I think we're going to have a lot to discuss for next week. So with that, as for Calbert, for Hurls, we hope you enjoyed this review. Remember, hit the subscribe button, comment on the comment section what you thought of our power rankings. And that'll be it for us. We'll see you next week.